A good evening to you all, and thank you for joining us here on Rwanda Television News tonight. Our hope is that you had yourselves a productive Tuesday. Now here's a sneak peek of our edition this evening. This Tuesday afternoon at Village Rugwiro, President Paul Kagame received former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is serving as one of the facilitators of the merged Rwanda-Nairobi peace process for the Eastern DRC. Leaders from various governance levels in Kigali City met in a General Assembly to discuss how to accelerate development, especially in areas still lagging behind in infrastructure and modernizing aging facilities that no longer meet current standards. On the international scale, a ceasefire deal between Iran and Israel announced by U.S. President Donald Trump appears to be holding. The president has also told reporters that he is not seeking a regime change in Iran. And we're glad to have a company tonight, coming to you straight from the heart of Africa, Kigali. My name is Martina Abera. As we begin this edition of the news, let us first inform you that on Tuesday afternoon at Village Rugwiro, President Paul Kagame received former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is serving as one of the facilitators of the merged Rwanda-Nairobi peace process for the Eastern DRC. They discussed the situation in the region, along with various key issues of continental and global significance. The two leaders also shared insights on pathways toward stability, cooperation, and progress. Let us also inform you that Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Ambassador Olivier Nduhungirehe, has held a phone conversation with His Excellency Dr. Mohammed bin Abdelaziz Al Khulaifi, the Minister of State at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of the State of Qatar. During the conversation, Minister Nduhungirehe expressed Rwanda's solidarity and support to the State of Qatar and condemned the recent missile attack on the Al Udeid air base in violation of its sovereignty and territorial integrity. Leaders from various governance levels in Kigali City met in a General Assembly to discuss how to accelerate development, especially in areas still lagging behind in infrastructure and in modernizing aging facilities that no longer meet current standards. This Kigali City General Assembly served as an opportunity to reflect on the development achievements the city has made and to present the government's vision for the years ahead. It is from this perspective that some residents expressed appreciation for what they have received, saying it has transformed their lives. However, for the city to fully realize its vision, residents in underdeveloped areas are urging not to be left behind. The mayor of Kigali, Samuel Dusengiyumva, assures these residents that their needs have been anticipated and that the city's vision significant plans for them.
We
have launched a program focused on building infrastructure and developing residential areas without requiring residents to relocate. This is our current vision, and it will be implemented across various neighborhoods. In the coming days, we plan to begin in Gatenga, followed by Rwintare Kimihurura and other parts of Kigali where informal or substandard settlements still exist. Visible improvements are coming. We will build quality homes like those you've seen in the recent videos. What was once a dream is now becoming a reality. We want to assure residents that transformation is on the way. Wherever a physical plan has been approved, we aim to construct asphalt roads and install proper drainage systems. Together, we will achieve this goal.
To make this vision a reality, the Minister of Local Government, Dr. Patrice Mugenzi, calls on citizens to understand and embrace Kigali's development agenda as their own.
This vision aligns with that of our country, the vision of the head of state, which is for all citizens to live in well-planned, dignified settlements in good living conditions, enjoying the peace and security we currently have, along with access to quality healthcare. It is you who will help the head of state achieve this vision by working together and combining our efforts. When we speak with pride about Kigali, the very first person who should testify to that pride is a resident of Kigali.
In the 2024-2025 fiscal year, Kigali City spent over 8 billion Rwandan francs on initiatives aimed at supporting vulnerable populations, including removing street vendors from the roads. Over 40,000 new jobs were created, and more than 3,000 families were supported through the Vision 2020 Umurenge program. Additionally, the city continues to make every effort to provide housing for 193 homeless families and to address other pressing challenges that hinder citizens' development. The Rwanda Development Board is set to establish a dedicated, unified platform through which services for investors and business people will be delivered, with over 50% of these services to be provided digitally. This was announced during the CEO Forum, which brought together investors and top executives from businesses operating in Rwanda.
The purpose of the forum was to explain to investors and business people the recent reforms in the country's tax policy and to showcase the updated digital services offered through the RDB One-Stop Center. The Chief Executive Officer of RDB, Jean-Guy Africa, explained that these reforms are at an advanced stage and are expected to bring significant changes.
The Rwanda Development Board is undertaking a major shift in how we deliver services through the One-Stop Center. Our objective is to simplify processes, reduce turnaround times, eliminate duplication, and improve transparency.
Israel Bimpe, the CEO of the Irembo, a Rwandan software company that develops platforms for governments and companies to manage services and payments, explained that they started by integrating the most commonly needed services.
And we are starting with services with the most in demand in agro-processing and mining, in real estate, in manufacturing, in agriculture, financial services and tourism.
Investors shared suggestions on additional services that could be included in the RDB One-Stop Center.
We haven't had a component from City of Kigali and Land Center. In my view, if we had those two components, because City of Kigali controls construction permits and all that, and I'm wondering, why is it a separate unit operating on its own, yet it is one of the cooperant agencies that facilitate doing business?
The RDB leadership stated that construction-related permits will also be added to the services available through the One-Stop Center in order to reduce recurring challenges. They further explained that the ongoing reforms at the RDB One-Stop Center aim to consolidate over 460 services, which were previously offered across more than 24 different institutions. Olive Nete, RTV News.
Health experts from East African countries highlight persistent challenges in reproductive health across the region, including teenage pregnancies, maternal mortality, and other issues that require strong cross-border collaboration to achieve sustainable solutions. We have more on this report.
At the regional forum held in Kigali, health professionals from East African countries came together under East Africa Reproductive Health Network meeting to discuss common reproductive health challenges. Participants shared their country-specific experiences and strategies, aiming to learn from one another and find collaborative solutions. Dr. Rose Orange, Director of Public Policy and Communication at the Africa Institute for Development Policy, emphasized key reproductive health issues that deserve urgent attention.
First one is teenage pregnancy. There's so many young people getting pregnant early, and that does not only affect their education and other economic development, but it also causes them to get into maternal health challenges. Actually, a lot of maternal deaths on the continent come from very young mothers because they're not ready for reproduction. The second one is access to maternal health services. And here I mean women who are having children, access to quality antenatal care, but also access to delivery. We know that quality antenatal care has improved over the years. Nearly 90% in the region of women get quality antenatal care. The problem comes in delivery. So they end up delivering without healthcare services. Some end up delivering out of health facilities, and some deliver within health facilities but not with the care they need, and so a lot of them end up dying. The third one is financing. In terms of how are we providing services for these women at health facility level to get the health they need. So when you think about delivery, women who are giving birth, the quality they need to have the nurses, the medicines they need to be able to give birth in a space that is safe.
Patrick Mujirwa, an official from PPD, which promotes productive health, stressed that one of the major barriers is the lack of sufficient financial investment by governments in reproductive health services.
Countries have made several commitments at different levels. Commitments have been made at the Africa regional level, commitments have been made at the global level, and these are commitments like universal health coverage, sustainable development goals, commitments like FP 2030 commitments, and we will appreciate that there is some progress that has been made, but there are still challenges which remain. No wonder the reproductive health population development outcomes, they are still not desirable ones. So we hope that this meeting can provide an opportunity for countries to interface with each other, share between themselves and see what good practices have worked in one country or the other that can be replicated in other countries so that there's an improvement on the health outcomes.
What are those challenges?
Challenges are mainly around resources. Commitments implementation require resources. We appreciate that the countries are doing a lot of resources. They are putting in resources, but it's not enough. We also appreciate that countries have adopted commitments like the Africa Leadership Meeting commitment that requires increased domestic resources for health.
This two-day meeting of the East Africa Reproductive Health Network is being held for the 15th edition. It aims to facilitate the exchange of knowledge and best practices among countries to address persistent reproductive health challenges and work towards sustainable and collaborative solutions.
Now on to matters of the youth. Young people who have embraced the use of social media say these platforms have gone beyond being mere tools for information and sharing. They have become avenues for self-employment and showcasing their talents. Social media continues to take on a larger role in daily life, especially among the youth. Beyond being spaces for social interaction and sharing information, they are increasingly seen as new pathways to development, be it in business, knowledge sharing, or communication. For some, these platforms serve as tools to showcase their talents. For others, they are means for teaching, offering advice, or promoting their initiatives. This enables them to earn income or expand their personal brand. Tito Harinimana, who uses the platform X, says he leverages social media to generate income rather than waste time on it. His sentiments are echoed by Joshua Kwizera, another social media user. Solange Nishimye, popularly known as Soul Solange, says she initially began using social media casually, but it has since taken her to a level she never imagined. In addition to generating income, the youth explained that responsible use of social media has opened up many opportunities for them. Those who have realized the benefits of using social media wisely advise their peers to avoid its misuse. Women working as drivers in Rwanda say this profession has helped them improve their lives and those of their families, even though they initially faced discouragement. This comes as Rwanda celebrated for the first time the International Women Drivers Day on Tuesday. The day found that many women have already embraced a profession that was once considered exclusively for men. Joyce Iradukunda drives a truck across borders, while Florid Mukarurema has been transporting passengers for the past 15 years. Both express satisfaction with their work as it sustains them and their families. The spokesperson of the Rwanda National Police Traffic and Road Safety Department, Superintendent Emmanuel Kaiji, has commended the performance of female drivers, noting that they tend to be involved in fewer accidents compared to their male counterparts. Gilbert Mugabo, the head of the Professional Drivers Cooperative here in Rwanda, stated that the cooperative aims to support female drivers in working professionally and avoiding accidents. However, the exact number of female professional drivers in Rwanda is currently unknown, even though their presence in the profession is visibly increasing. Menzies Aviation, a global aviation services company operating in 65 countries, including Rwanda, has donated houses worth over 100 million Rwandan francs to survivors of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda district. Enora Gladys has more on this report.
Before making their donation, members of Menzies Aviation paid tribute to the victims of the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi at the Kigali Genocide Memorial in Gisozi. Following the commemoration, they traveled to Musha sector in Rwamagana district, where they handed over 10 houses they had built for genocide survivors in the area. The Global Chief of People at Menzies Aviation, Juliet Thompson, explained the motivation behind their contribution.
Rwanda, the history of Rwanda and the genocide is obviously a huge part of the country here, and as partners with Rwanda Air and as suppliers within Rwanda, we wanted to make sure we were contributing and doing what we could to support. So we're very happy to be able to be here in country and to see the housing that's been built, and also to meet some of the families that the project supports. Africa is a hugely important part of our business, and Rwanda as well. So we obviously learned of the genocide, have understood more being here and visiting the memorial this week. But it's a project that's very, very key and close to the hearts of a lot of the team that work here, and it was something that we also wanted to support as a global business.
The special advisor to the board of Menzies Aviation, Mervyn Walker, also shared the purpose of their visit and the importance of their support to Rwanda.
It's very important. We spend a lot of time worrying about turning around aeroplanes at airports, but you know, our motto is people, passion and pride. So our most important asset is people. We have people from this country as employees. We hope to have more. So it's really important to, you know, to help and support and to assist the communities and help this this fantastic country grow and develop.
The company's global CEO, Philip Joning, stated that the world has much to learn from Rwanda in terms of resilience and post-conflict recovery.
I think the resilience that Rwanda is showing, and the healing process, and the speaking about it, and the inclusiveness of society, that is something to learn, and that is something that not only other countries can learn, but that is something that everyone can learn.
The president of IWUCA, Dr. Gakwenzira Philbert, expressed his appreciation for the initiative, emphasizing the positive impact such acts of solidarity have on genocide survivors. The 10 houses built by Menzies Aviation are valued at over 100 million Rwandan francs. In addition, the company donated 1 million Rwandan francs to support community-based health insurance for the beneficiaries. Enora Gladys, RwandaTV News.
The Murambi Genocide Memorial in Nyamagabe district, one of the key memorial sites preserving the profound history of the genocide against the Tutsi, where over 50,000 Tutsi were massacred, has been listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site and is frequently visited by people from various parts of the world. Most visitors to the memorial seek to understand the history of the genocide against the Tutsi and to learn lessons from it. Murambi is a small hill nestled in a valley surrounded by hills on all sides. It is located in Gasaka sector, Remera Cell, Nyamagabe district. Before the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi, a vocational school, formerly known as Eto, was under construction on the hill. It is here that over 50,000 Tutsi were lured by the then government, falsely promised protection, only to be betrayed. Today, Murambi stands as a powerful memorial to the atrocities committed in 1994. On April 21st of that year, over 50,000 Tutsi were killed on that hill, with only a few survivors, just over 30 identified so far, given the scale of the massacre. Each year on April 21st, a remembrance event is held at Murambi to honor those who perished. Throughout the rest of the year, Murambi continues to receive visitors, both Rwandans and foreigners. A large number of them are youth who were born after the genocide and visit to learn its history. The Minister of National Unity and Civic Engagement, Dr. Jean Damascene Bizimana, joined the public in Murambi in 2025 to commemorate the 31st anniversary of the genocide. He emphasized that Rwandans must draw important lessons from the events at Murambi and across the country to ensure history does not repeat itself. The Murambi Memorial, the final resting place for over 50,000 Tutsi killed on April 21st, 1994, was inscribed on the UNESCO World Heritage List on September 20th, 2023 by the United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization.
Moments. Laying hooks. Getting away. Making moves. Breakfast with family. Inyanje is always there. Whatever the occasion, whatever the moment, always ask for Inyanje.
Nyiri muto arababwiraga data bati ntabwo agira umukamo mwinshi utunze inkimwe, ariko nigeze acika intege. Mama akinjira mu bucuruzi harabamubwiraga bati ntabwo watera imbere udakorera mu iduka rigezweho, ariko ntibyamusubije inyuma, yakoranaga umwete. Njya muri kaminuza harabanshidikanyagaho bavuga ko nashobora kaminuza naturuka mu muryango wifashije, ariko byaragiye nanditse amateka mashya. Igihe cyo gutera ishema umuryango wanjye kigeze, bamwe bakomeje kumbwira bati ntabwo watera umuryango wawe ibyishimo n'ishema, ariko narabishoboye. Hari abakekaga ko nasigira umurage ukomeye abankomokaho, ariko ubu mfite uruganda rutunganya amata. Banki ya Kigali yabaye umufatanyabikorwa wanjye mu rugendo rwose, inzozi zanjye ziba impamo. Bigereho.
Muyobozi wa sosiyete, turakwibutsa ko buri sosiyete isabwa n'itegeko kubika ibitabo bya sosiyete ndetse no gushyikiriza RDB amakuru abikubiyemo. Ibyo bitabo birimo igitabo cy'abanyamigabane, icy'abagenewe inyungu ku migabane, inyandiko y'amakuru ya sosiyete, ibaruramari ngarukamwaka n'izindi. Gutanga amakuru y'ugenewe inyungu ku migabane wanyura kuri bo.rdb.rw, naho gutanga izindi nyandiko ukanyura kuri org.rdb.rw.
Thank you for sticking with us on RTV News, and welcome back to stories making headlines on the international scale. On to the Middle East, a ceasefire deal between Iran and Israel announced by U.S. President Donald Trump appears to be holding. The president has also told reporters that he is not seeking a regime change in Iran. Al Jazeera with the details.
Tired of it. I think they don't want it to happen again. And Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon, by the way. I think it's the last thing on their mind right now.
Mr. President, did Iran make any commitments yesterday about uranium enrichment?
About what?
About uranium enrichment.
They're not going to have enrichment, and they're not going to have a nuclear weapon, and they know that. They're going to get on to being a great trading nation. You know, they're very good traders. And they're going to be a great trading nation, and they have a lot of oil. They're going to do well. They're not going to have a nuclear weapon.
Do they promise?
The last thing on Iran's mind right now is nuclear weapons.
Can you clarify clarify what you meant when you mentioned regime change in your Truth Social post the other night?
Which?
Regime change. Do you want to see regime change in Iran?
No. If there was, there was. But no, I don't want it. I'd like to see everything calm down as quickly as possible. Regime change takes chaos. And ideally, we don't want to see so much chaos. So we'll see how it does. You know, the Iranians are very good traders, very good business people. And they got a lot of oil. They should be fine. They should be able to rebuild and do a good job. They're never going to have nuclear, but other than that, they should do a great job, which is exactly what I've been saying for years. You cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. But we're going to be with, where's Marco? I believe Marco's here someplace. You know, our great Secretary of State. But we cannot let them have a nuclear weapon. They won't have a nuclear weapon. And I will tell you, the last thing on their minds is nuclear weapons.
Leaders of 32 NATO members are gathering in The Hague for an annual summit with the unity of the bloc in question. There are divisions among allies of the world's biggest security organization around a new defense spending pledge. U.S. President Donald Trump has been putting pressure on members to increase their spending to 5% of their GDP and decrease their reliance on American funding. Al Jazeera once more.
A very busy agenda here at the NATO summit taking place in The Hague, things ranging from NATO's military spending to the war in Ukraine. But the thing that's not really on the agenda is the current situation in the Middle East. But it is dominating much of the conversation among NATO's 32 allies. One of those is Estonia. Its foreign minister is Margus Tsahkna. Minister, at the moment, you have a situation where one man, President Trump, seems to be running the diplomacy. It's very public. We're all watching his tweets, even telling Israeli fighter pilots to go back to their bases. He doesn't seem to be consulting you, his allies. Are you concerned about how this is going to play out?
We are concerned what is going to happen in the region, to be honest. No one is interested about further escalation, and I'm talking about the regional war. We are not talking about any more the conflict. It's a war between Iran and also Israel. And of course, I understand as well President Trump well that he wants to cool it down and also start to negotiate and also have an agreement about the nuclear capabilities with Tehran. But now it seems, as you said as well, everything is changing in every hour. So we see that now the new attacks from Israel, and of course President Trump has been using very brutal words about stopping Israel and now cool down and have a ceasefire. So let's see what is going to happen.
You talk about the need for a deal, you talk about negotiation and diplomacy, but there was a deal. And the man who ripped it up was President Donald Trump. Iran was not enriching at a high level until that happened. And when it came to diplomacy, Iran was negotiating with the US when Israel attacked. Iran had been negotiating with European foreign ministers just hours before the US attacked. Isn't it the US that's not engaged in diplomacy, in fact, engaged in deceit?
To be honest, Iran has not been very, good partner in about negotiations, and we are not sure on what level actually this nuclear program has been developed. And to be honest, if one regime is telling very clearly that their main purpose is to destroy the other nation or the country using nuclears as well in the future, so everybody was concerned about that. So we can argue about what President Trump did or not, but now
was it legal?
This was a situation right now that actually let's stop it and let's agree about.
Was it legal?
What was illegal?
Was it legal, President Trump's military action against Iran?
It's not about me to say about that, but to be honest, it was a very, very straightforward decision to stop the program.
Minister, with this is for more than 3 years you have been making the case that Russia acted illegally, violating the UN Charter, breaching the international rules-based order by what it did in Ukraine. Isn't this just double standards? You're trying to convince countries around the world beyond NATO. Won't they see this as double standards?
We are talking about totally different things. Russia has invaded and aggression against Ukraine.
They're both international law. They're both the UN Charter.
Yeah. UN Charter is important, but you cannot mix like two different things. If you have one leader as Putin is just attacking one nation, destroying that, and not giving any opportunity to for Ukrainians to exist in the future. This is actually his main main goal. These are totally different things.
Margus Tsakna, the Foreign Minister of Estonia, thank you for joining us here at the NATO summit, where they'll continue to discuss a range of different subjects, but President Trump and the continuing crisis in the Middle East, I think, dominating much of the proceedings. James Bays, Al Jazeera, in The Hague.
And that Al Jazeera story marks the end of our bulletin. Before we close off, let's have a recap of our headlines. This Tuesday afternoon at Village Rugwiro, President Paul Kagame received former Nigerian President Olusegun Obasanjo, who is serving as one of the facilitators of the merged Rwanda-Nairobi peace process for the Eastern DRC. Leaders from various governance levels in Kigali City met in a General Assembly to discuss how to accelerate development, especially in areas still lagging behind in infrastructure and in modernizing aging facilities that no longer meet current standards. On the international scene, a ceasefire deal between Iran and Israel announced by U.S. President Donald Trump appears to be holding. News Bulletin. On behalf of the news production team as well as the technical team, thank you for sticking with us. My name is Martina Abera, and until next time, stay safe and have a good night.